unmistakable, coming off of a third place this March to win the title of the 16th Mr. Olympia in its 56-year history. Wow. That is a happy man right there.
What's up, bodybuilding fans, and welcome back to a new video from me. Haven't done one for a very long time for bodybuilding because obviously there's not been much going on this year due to COVID, but the Olympia guys managed to successfully put on the 56th Mr. Olympia, and as we saw over the weekend, Big Rummy became the 16th only Mr. Olympia in its, as I said, 56-year history. So this guy, as we know, has been trying for 7 years now. He made his first professional appearance at the Olympia in 2013, where he placed 8th. So he's been pretty much year on year trying to place higher in this, you know, renowned competition, and he's always been seen as a potential Olympian, but can never bring the final product to the stage. He was always too big, but didn't have enough detail. The conditioning was never there. But he listened to his fans, he listened to the criticism, he took on as much advice and coaching as he could, and this year he blew us all out of the water. It became quite blatantly apparent that he was the key winner here, you know, in the pre-judging on the first day, and obviously then the call-outs which then followed from that. Obviously this call-out here, we are looking at the top 4, all 4 placed in the top 4, and, you know, rightfully so. I do dispute the fact that Phil shouldn't have really been in the top 4 in my opinion. So perhaps a little bit of politics there, but I'll get onto that later in the video. But I've put together a bit more footage of, you know, so you can see the mandatory poses here, just so you can really see like the level of conditioning that he brought to the table, really, and just that size. I mean, you know, let me remind you that he actually competes at 290 pounds, so, you know, it's 130 kilos, so we're up there with Ronnie Coleman, you know, like the big boys. And, you know, in these current times, he is the only man who has basically got the persona of not Ronnie Coleman, but obviously a big guy, you know, like Big Rummy, that's his name. You know, he's the biggest guy on that stage. But unlike Ronnie, who was always able to bring the conditioning, the crazy conditioning along with the size, Ramy hasn't been able to do that since he really started. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's done very well in his career. He has won many competitions, but it's taken him a long time to climb up that ladder for the Olympia stage. And for those of you who don't know, his best placing on the Olympia so far to date has been 2nd at 2017, and then in 18 he actually placed 6th, so he really dropped there, and obviously took a step back from last year and didn't actually compete. And this year he had a special invite, so some people were disputing the fact, you know, did he even deserve to be there, because he didn't actually qualify to be there. But I think it's become quite apparent that that was a good idea to invite him, and he deserved to be there, because let's face it, he is the best. He is the best now, he's the best in the world. And I think if he can bring even more conditioning, if he can just work on refining that, he doesn't need to get any bigger. I think he's definitely going to be a contender for, you know, keeping that title next year, because he's still quite young. He's only 36, so he's got, you know, a few years in him. Obviously, you look at people like Dexter Jackson, we can't really compare because he's a genetic freak, but there is a possibility, if, you know, if their health remains intact, these guys can go on year without, you know, hopefully dying or potentially getting very ill from it, because, you know, there's a lot that goes on that some people may be a bit naive or perhaps ignorant to be aware of in terms of the drug protocol and all the other stuff that goes on to keep these guys in you know, optimum health, because what they do is not particularly very healthy, separate to the training and diet. So, you know, that's something to consider. But I do believe that now that he's knocked off Brandon, who last year's champion, he is now going to be the one to beat. You know, everyone's going to be chasing him for at least the next year. That's a fact. Two things that stood out to me most with Big Ramy was his legs from the side, as you see there, and also his control of his midsection. I mean, he's 130 kilos, and the way he controlled his abs and the way his abs looked, he didn't have that bubble gut which, you know, most of the bodybuilders in the last 10 years or so have been criticised for. And actually very good abs, you know, he's got good genetics, you know, good abdominal wall. They're not uneven blocks. They're all a good size, not too big. Good separation, good definition. You know, you can't really fault him. And, you know, crazy side shot of the legs. I mean, you saw on the top of the hamstrings those two almost like knife-like lines on the hammies. I mean, that to get that level of conditioning, I mean, God knows the sacrifice he's made of his diet and his cardio protocol. I haven't seen that in a bodybuilder for a very long time. I'll tell you what, his legs in general, I mean, I'm a big guy about when it comes to legs. I train my legs hard and they're big, and, you know, it's something I really love doing, and respect other people if they actually have legs. And it's obvious he's got legs, but the conditioning is something that's the most hardest thing to get when it comes to bodybuilding. You know, speaking from experience, it is hard to bring out that detail, and obviously that detail, that level, that's just a completely different dimension to what something I've even tried to do. So hats off to him for bringing that in. And, you know, looking at his overall physique, I can't really criticize anything. I don't really want to anyway, because he's fully deserving. In terms of the other guys, you know, I'm going to get on to briefly about them. I think Brandon Curry did look very good, to be fair. Like, I think he definitely deserved to play second and not be under Phil or anyone else. I think, you know, he still had great size and conditioning, better conditioning than the year before. Because let's face it, he's trying to keep that title, so he's going to work even harder to do that. William Bonac, I don't really think that he brought a good conditioning, like good. He looked good, but not as good as previous years. Obviously, because he came second last year, and has drastically dropped this year. Phil Heath, fair play to him. He took a year out. He has won 7. That can't be taken away from him. He's an incredible athlete and has always been gifted. As we know, his nickname being the Gift. But this year, I think the judges made the right call to not place him higher than that. He was obviously third. I don't believe, like I said previously, that he deserved to be in the third spot. I would have put him perhaps maybe 5th. Not just because of his abs, it was also the size of his legs. I mean, I know Big Ramy's huge, so he's going to make anyone look small, even next to someone like Phil Heath. But Phil's legs look quite small, in my opinion, in comparison to everyone. His condition was okay, but nothing like Ramy's. Ramy, I don't know what he's done. He's wherever his coach has got him eating and training, and, you know, he's been so strict because he wants it so much. It really paid off. Obviously, he wanted it more because he's an underdog, and that's why he worked hard for it, because everyone wants to see someone like that win, but normally they fail. And Phil, you know, perhaps he was a bit arrogant and he thought that he'd win it easily by coming back after a year. Maybe he thought the judge would be in his favour for different reasons: money, sponsorship, clickiness, politics, like I mentioned. But thankfully that didn't occur. This is the first year, I think, that there's been some genuine non-bias and non-corrupt decision making with the points. And I mean, look at these shots of him. He just looks crazy, like a pure superhero. Everything about him is screaming out, you know, a pro. He's definitely not an amateur. He's definitely up there. And I think, you know, the way he's progressed over his career, he's had up and downs with placings in Olympia, Arnold events, different types of shows he's done over the years. He's done really well. You know, he's trusted his process. He's never given up. He's kept coming back hungry and hungry, you know, fighting more and more. And you know, as a result, he's deservedly won that title. And even if it only happens the once, it's like anything. The process is what is, you know, the hardest thing, and the reward is very satisfying, you know, because I think more than some of the other bodybuilders, he's wanted it more than anyone else, because for someone to be that big and have that much potential and just missing out every other time must be incredibly, you know, demoralizing and frustrating. And, you know, there's a lot that goes on to what they do in terms of sacrifice with the money for what they need to sustain themselves, supplements, drugs, food and whatnot, the training, the sacrifice to their life. They don't really have a life. You can't really be normal, can't do normal things with family and friends, like just going out for a nice dinner, or, you know, they have to train hours every day. They have to do lots of different things to support what they're doing. It's not, there's not really an off season. Yes, there is. They bulk up, but they're always working as hard as they can to stay in shape, because it literally is the difference between 1% sometimes. Just, you know, certain angles, certain lighting, you know, if you haven't got control of that midsection, your posing's got to be on point. And luckily for him, well, not luckily, he got it all, you know, he sussed it all this year. And like you can see here now, like every person's so happy for him. I'm quite pleased to see that as well. Like the athletes are so supportive of each other this year, and there's no real hatred or bitching or jealousy. You know, it seems very sincere and genuine, like the talks and the respect given to one another, and that's nice to see, because, you know, sports are competitive, and it's good to have that kind of you know, that little bit of heat amongst each other. But this year, from what I saw there and in the footage I've seen back, it looked very genuine and nice to see. And, you know, massive congratulations to Big Rummy. You know, take that home and enjoy and savour that win, because no one else deserves it more than you do. And congratulations obviously to Curry, you know, coming second. It's not like he's gone massively down on the pecking order. He's still managed to stand up against two previous Olympians, obviously Dexter Jackson, who unfortunately came 7th. This was his final appearance as well, so he says. And then obviously to 7 times Phil Heath. Also, just to see here, Big Rummy also won the People's Award. So that's what Heidi Choopan won last year. You know, because Rowley Winker had it the year before. So he won 2 awards, you know, Mr Olympia, and he's also the fans' favourite, the People's Choice. And, you know, that's quite obvious to see. You know, he's got a great following. People love him all around the world, and I think he deserved that award as well. You know, he brought it. He brought that package, and I think that's quite an inspiration, because when athletes don't give up, I think that's what pushes other athletes to keep going. So well done again to you, and best of luck for next year's Olympia. So obviously I mentioned briefly about Brandon Curry, last year's champion. Controversial, because some people believed he didn't deserve it, but I think that he did bring a good package this year. Good size, good definition. Overall, definitely was, in my opinion, deserving of a second or third placing. Not as good as Big Rummy, but definitely better than Phil Heath, and definitely better than William Bonac. So I think that he's done well to stay up there, and you know, being second's not a bad thing at all. You know, he's only won once before, so he's also done well in his career, and I'm confident this is going to spur him on to push even harder for next year to try and get that title back, because it's not like he's far away from it. He's still in the world's considered to be number 2. So on to Phil Heath. Like I mentioned before, he came 3rd, and you know, some people are saying, you know, did he deserve it? Was Heidi Choopan robbed of it? Should he have been in the 3rd spot? And you know what, I'd say, yeah, Hardy, he deserved to be in that 3rd spot. Phil, you know, he's a great athlete, done very well for himself, and deserves to be there again. It's not like he's amateur, but he wasn't good enough to take that 3rd spot. So who knows why that decision was made. Obviously we don't know what the judges are thinking, but they made it nonetheless. It was good to see him back. I do respect the fact that he's not given up on the sport and on himself, and came back to try and take it again. You know, top 3 though, it's not too shabby. Whether you think it's a good decision or not, I'm sure he's not going to be too unhappy about that. So Shane missed out on the tie with 8-time champions Ronnie and Lee Haney, but it is what it is. So Hardy obviously came 4th. As we know, last year he won the People's Award. It's his first ever appearance at the Olympia as well. You know, only the second Iranian actually to ever get to the top spot. So he's done really well. Obviously, he did better last year, but Big Rummy wasn't there. So I think that pushed him down a little bit in the pecking order. And like I said, Phil being there also affected his placing. But I think, you know, he's got great potential to come back in the future, and maybe, despite being one of the smaller guys in stature, the size and conditioning he has with his stature is very impressive, and I think it could potentially be improved upon to maybe take that spot in the future. And then lastly, obviously again, William Bonac. So William came 2nd last year to Brandon. This year, not so good, and it's a shame, but at least he's still up there in the top 5. So we'll see what happens for William. And then obviously I mentioned Rolly already. Not Rolly, sorry. Dexter Jackson, 50 years old, well 50 plus, still competing. But number 7, I think it's time to call it a day. So well done to all the athletes that competed on the day. It was a really, well, the 2 days, sorry. Very interesting competition this year, and I think a lot more exciting despite COVID restrictions and the way he has gone. A lot more exciting and competitive than last year's. That's a fact. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next year. Hopefully there's going to be more of a normal world. Athletes can compete and interact with each other more. You know, people can actually go see this. There was quite a few people at the show, which I was surprised to see, to be honest, but as we know in America, there are people that are on the fence whether it's a real virus or not, and if you can actually die from it or not. So each to their own. They take their own risks. I'm sure they wore masks inside the venue. I did see the athletes didn't, but I don't know if they were tested. But anyway, that's something else to talk about in the future. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about what you think from the men's open. Did Big Ramy deserve to win? And what do you think about the placings for Phil Heath and the rest of the top 5? And just leave your comments in the section below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so. I really appreciate your support, guys, and you'll be seeing some more videos from me soon. So anyway, take care and I'll see you soon. Amigo One Finis, signing out.